Yeah, so I think it was the brainchild mostly of Jonathan Leo and Renslow Scher who had this idea. And then they came to me just in my role as someone who builds faculty development programs. And after we sat down, I remember distinctly the day we sat down talking about it, about how could we do this and bring some of what we do here in training educators and training teachers to an educational system like China that's very different, yet striving to be more dynamic and more modern in the ways they approach it. And so we sat around talking, and they had the expertise with the Chinese educational system, and then I had some expertise in faculty development. And putting those two heads together, we were able to start thinking, and I want to say 2 years ago now, about how we can do this.
Well, that's right, 2 years.
2 years.
What are some of the components of IMP? What do you think are the strengths for a foreign medical educator?
I think it does a couple things. One, it first of all looks at both training people in teaching skills, and that's how to teach, and educator skills, which is how to think of the broader view of education as we know it, building curricula, administration, leadership. And it approaches both of those things. But the way it approaches it is really amazing as well. It focuses on small group. It focuses on interactive and engaged sessions. It focuses on building off the experiences of the people who come to the program to say, what are you doing at your home institution? What are the challenges there? How can we take what we do here, or take some of the theory and apply it within the context where you are? It's not meant to be dogmatic in any way about you must do it the way we do it here. Rather saying, here are some concepts and some ideas and things that have worked. Now, how can you take that and adapt it or permute it into a different way that makes sense for your program? And that interactivity and that brainstorming and that small group project approach is very useful, I think, for people to really create something that fits.
So the IMEP trainees will actually be engaged for how long, and will it also involve work in their home institution?
That's the hope. So you're here 2 weeks. They come here for 2 weeks. It's a busy schedule, morning and afternoon, but we spend as much time, I like to think, in small group and in interactive conversations as we do in just lecture. We try to get them very involved here, but moving towards a project that they can take home. Because the ultimate goal, besides building a cohort, a community of like-minded educators from China, and that's part of what they will do here. It's also creating the start of a project and a plan for a project that they can take home and immediately start working on when they get home. Because if you go to a program like this and just learn information, but aren't thinking about how to apply it, then you go home and you're excited for about 2 days and then you forget. But if you go home with an assignment, and Jonathan Leo is going to be following up with them, that's the interesting thing. There's accountability to say, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you did. That's going to keep people going and give them not just the incentive, but the excitement about going to do more. And I think that's a really unique part of this program.
What are some of the structures for medical education and medical education research at University of Chicago?
Yeah, we are fortunate that the institution really supports innovation and creativity when it comes to this. We have the MERITS program, which is the Medical Education Research Innovation Teaching Scholarship Program, where we train faculty in the skills of curriculum development, and we train them in teaching skills. And that's a one-year program. But not everybody can do that. So we also have workshops throughout the year that help with some basic teaching skills. We have a teaching consult program where we will come watch you teach in a lecture, in the clinic, in a small group, and give you personalized feedback to improve your process and how you do it. We have a research in medical education monthly session where we hear about people's research, and that alone really fuels people in their research to see what ideas people have, how they're doing research, and how you can do research. As well as we have the Academy of Distinguished Medical Educators, which is a program that honors exceptional educators, but also provides programming for all educators in this institution, one of which is providing grant support for at least 2 major projects every year, where we fund up to $50,000 a year a medical education project, which really gets people off on a good foot to do some really innovative stuff here. And so a lot of what we do is build the structures in place to give people the time, the financial support, and more importantly, the community support to be better educators and take the time to do it.
That's great. Could you describe 1 or 2 of the skills that you might be sharing with people for teaching?
Definitely. I think over the years, I've learned the core skill you need to be an educator is feedback. How to give feedback, how to receive feedback, but more importantly, how to give it. And so what we spend a lot of time on with both our teachers here and with this group are how do you give feedback? How do you give feedback in a way that is effective? How do you give feedback in a way that is in a dialogue rather than just me telling you things, but let's engage with it, and creating a plan for improvement, which I think a lot of times we don't do. So feedback is one really core piece. We also talk about how to teach with limited time. Nobody has time to teach. So how do you do it when you have a minute or 2 minutes? And so we teach the 1 minute preceptor, which is a program for how to do 5 simple steps to teach well and in an engaged way that is learner-centered with limited time. Those are 2 of the skills, but we've also talked about how to use role modeling, how to be not only be a better role model, but to use your own role modeling as a teaching tool. So those are 2 or 3 of the core ones we're going to teach in the IMEP program.
How do you incentivize your teachers at the University of Chicago to be engaged and to appreciate teaching?
I think it starts with the culture. And people always say you can't change culture. I think you can, and I think we need to. And we are fortunate to have a culture here that says teaching is valued, teaching is important. Part of the way we show that is certainly through our Academy of Distinguished Medical Educators, but it's also the fact that we offer all these programs where we can help people develop the way they want to develop. I'll be honest, just even without in my own department, when you hear about people doing different educational things, and I hear someone else is doing something when they're on service, I want to be better and do that as well. So we inspire people, I think, and understanding that teaching isn't about just delivering information. We changed that culture years ago, that it's not just, I'm just going to throw information at you, but instead I need to understand my learners. I need to understand myself as a teacher. I need to find new and creative ways. And I think we build that culture where it is valued. We have ways of actually having bonuses in certain departments for your teaching evaluations, where it is imperative to have high teaching evaluations when you get promoted. These are all looked at the exact same way as we look at research or clinical success. And because we framed it that way, we have that culture. I think if you don't have that culture, it's important to change that culture and show people that this is something we value as much as getting enough patients in the door.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I have to say, I think this program is fascinating. I've done a lot of programs like this in the US, and the unique thing about this is we're doing it with a whole different group of people from a different country. And just from spending time with this first group, I've learned from them. They've asked me questions that make me say, well, why am I not doing that? And so that in between culture exchange, where we're giving each other, is amazing, but also the idea that then we can keep collaborating across many thousands of miles, and the world is small nowadays because of the way we do things with digital and electronics. And so I think the idea of having 2 very different cultures, both committed to making education the best it can be and be able to learn from each other, I think this is a truly unique program that I'm excited to be a part of.
That was great.
How do we do?
Yeah.
Do you have a couple extra minutes?
It's all up to him.
Well, let me go check.
I'm glad you asked, because I think this program is tremendously unique within programs that I've seen. I've done programs like this within the United States, and some of the things you'll see in those are common. You're building a cohort, you're working with like-minded individuals, you're working towards the same end. But at this program, the IMEP is unique in that it brings together 2 very different cultures who are both very uniform in what they're striving to do, and that's elevate education. We at the University of Chicago have definitely focused on it here, but I will tell you, I've learned just from these short weeks with this group, many things from them about, damn it, there was a bug. It was horrible. I know it. I was trying to ignore it until it was right there.
Well, it's on you.
We're just gonna pick up somewhere. Some of the things I've noticed in the past few weeks is how much exchange there has been between the 2 groups. I've been talking to the folks in this program, and they've asked me a question about, do you do this? And I think, no, why don't I? Or I've heard how they're doing it. We just had a wonderful discussion about how to get all our faculty trained. I am going to take as much from this as I hope they take from it. And the unique part is we will continue to work together, because we can keep in touch from digital communication, and hopefully one day I'll get over to China and we'll be able to do this more. But that collaboration, that exchange of information is one of the most unique pieces of this, to bring two cultures together and then grow both from that experience.
That's great.
I got